Because of one man, your principal chief, my principal chief, Mr. Bill John Baker.
You know, this is truly a very special day. 8 years ago, when I was elected your principal chief, this was the very first community that I came to as principal chief. Now folks, 8 years ago, this community, we could meet in a small church classroom. If I recall right, there was about 30 people that were the core of the organization, but that was it. Today, it looks like we've got 250, maybe 300 out here in North Texas to come to a Cherokee community meeting, which I have been blessed for the last 8 years to be able to come to family picnics. Because that's what this is. If you're Cherokee, you're family. We share the same common history that goes back to Georgia and Tennessee and Alabama and North Carolina, South Carolina. And we know that we come from good stock that survived the Trail of Tears. But more importantly, and even though 25% perished, our people never gave up. They immediately went about the business of reconstituting the Cherokee Nation. That's good stock, folks. That's folks that knew that the last days of the Cherokees were not to be done. And anytime they bet against the Cherokees, it's a really bad bet. And we want them to come to the Hard Rock. But, you know, the 8 years of being principal chief has been the highlight of my life. Every measurable thing that you can think of, God has truly blessed us. When I came in 8 years ago, we had about 2,500 kids in college. Today, we have 5,000 kids in college on Cherokee scholarships. And more importantly, we didn't turn down a single qualified student to go to college. We didn't say there's not enough money. We said if you want to go to college, we want to help you because it was important to our ancestors. Our ancestors used 60% of their entire treasury to build the male and the female seminary, and the female seminary was to teach teachers to teach. So we had mandatory public education in the Cherokee Nation before the United States of America had mandatory public education. That female seminary became Northeastern State University, where I graduated from. And it was known as the first institution of higher learning west of the Mississippi for any woman of any race. Yeah, we can be proud of our ancestors. And by these scholarships, we are honoring them in believing that what they believed in was what we need to believe in today. You know, I can remember when I was in college and the Cherokee Nation did not exist. We only had a principal chief appointed by the President of the United States and had zero government. In 1907, they sent the Supreme Court home. They sent the legislative branch home. They sent the chief and the deputy chief home. We had nothing. The federal government took over our lands for all of our wealth for over 70 years to manage it for us. We're suing them now. And God willing, we will get our just due of millions and millions, if not billions. Albert Einstein said that the greatest invention of modern man was compound interest. And when we go back and look at the treaties that we were promised and things that were said that we never got, it's going to make a difference. But folks, we've got over 365,000 citizens, proud citizens today. Mary Baker Shaw talked about the mega clinic, the 469,000 square foot clinic that we're building right now in Tahlequah. But that's not the important part. The important part is we exercised our sovereignty with the federal government and held their feet to the fire and says you are 300 years behind in building the buildings that you need to build to meet your treaty obligations for quality health care for the Cherokee people. And we said we will invest our money and we will build that clinic, but you've got to do your part. So they're going to send us over $100 million a year each and every year for doctors and nurses and better health care that our people deserve. Yeah, we've grown by leaps and bounds. You know, when I came in, our businesses outside of gaming were losing $9 million a year. Losing $9 million a year, but it was worth it. Because hundreds of Cherokees that would not have had a job any other way had jobs. And you can help a person so much more by a job than you can a handout. So we're getting hands up. That's why we've got 5,000 in college. That's why we have a career services. That's why we have a job corps. That's why we're sending folks to VOTEC, so that they can raise their families and have it better than their parents had it. It is the American dream, and why should the first Americans be the last Americans to enjoy the American dream? That's why we're building hundreds of homes each year for our young families. If they'll furnish the land, we'll build a brand new 3-bedroom brick home that they will fully pay for. But it's only $350 a month, including taxes and insurance. And folks, I own my home and I pay more than $350 a month in taxes and insurance on it. So even if you're on a minimum wage, which we raised the minimum wage at the Cherokee Nation to $9.50 an hour a few years ago. But even if you're on minimum wage, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that a family can afford $350 a month better than they can $650 a month in rent for anything close. It builds wealth. It builds self-esteem in our young people that all of a sudden they feel like they can invite their friends to spend the weekend or spend the night with them, because maybe when they lived in a trailer park or an apartment complex, their friends' folks wouldn't let them. Yeah, when that single mom turns the key on that new home for the very first time, and I see her weep. Never have believed that she would be a homeowner. And those young kids run and say, "This is my room. This is my brother's room. This is our home." I know we're doing the right thing. You know, you all have always been so friendly and so gracious, and I walk in and Chief, we're glad to see you again. We appreciate what you've done. You're just always so gracious, and you know, you're almost within shooting distance of the Cherokee Nation. You know, a 4-hour, 5-hour Sunday afternoon drive gets you back home. And we invite you often. But we built a lot of stuff. We put a lot of folks to work. We have moved the needle so that the Cherokee Nation is perched so that I believe the Cherokee Nation is stronger than it has ever been today. But the best days of the Cherokee Nation are in front of us, not behind us. We've got so much more to do. And if you've got bright young grandkids and they think they want a medical school education, we're going to do everything we can to scholarship as many Cherokees to go to the medical school there in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, as we possibly can. And just like our ancestors grew their own teachers because they did not exist, we are going to grow our own primary care physicians so that our people can have a primary care physician year after year after year for better quality care. And this medical school is also a teaching school, and we're going to be able to have them go with our kids from cradle to grave to beat some of these dreaded diseases that are prevalent in the Cherokee population. They'll be working on diabetes and those other diseases, heart disease, the kidney disease, the other diseases. They're going to be working and getting grants to study that and to make the lives of Cherokees better. Folks, that's the only purpose for this office of Principal Chief. It is not to be the Boston TV star. It's not to raise your self-esteem. It's not to get wealthy. It's not anything. It's to make the lives of Cherokees better no matter where they are. 8 years ago, there was a 4-year wait list. If you knew you were Cherokee and you had the documentation, it was at least 4 years before you could become a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. 8 years later, we have photo IDs, and we're at real time taking applications and starting to process them, and that is a big deal, and that's why we've got 365,000 citizens today that we didn't have 7 years ago. This will be the last time that I address you as Principal Chief. We have term limits. I have served two terms. It has been a blessing, and even though I've only been working a half a day for the last 8 years, about 8 to 8, It has been a joy, and it has not felt like I've worked a single day. God bless each and every one of you, and may God continue to bless the Cherokee Nation.